So the next part kind of goes along with this. It is also from Housingwire. It's a little bit of a different topic, but it's how Trump's executive orders impact home builders. Now, specific to home builders is kind of where we're going with this. And one of the claims here is that the only way out of this housing crisis is to remove barriers like unnecessary cost regulations that are raising the costs from keeping builders from building more attainable housing. Yeah. Now, a lot of the clapback that we get in comments is, oh, you guys are, you're apologists for insurance companies. They make billions of dollars. And it's like, listen, if they cover the whole nation, they cover the whole nation. They have different risks in California than they do in other states. They have different premiums and different okay, there's different replacement costs. Same thing for builders. You can have a Lennar or a KB Homes that's building across the nation, but that does not necessarily mean that they have the appetite to build in your backyard or our backyard. It has to make sense. And I'm not saying that because I'm trying to defend big business or whatever, but look, wherever you're watching this from, if you're indoors and you're inside a residence, someone built that freaking place.
Yeah.
And they did so because there was a profit in it. If you don't like that, I'm sorry, but it's still covering your head in the cold and the snow and the rain, et cetera, et cetera. So you also, at some point, went, I'm okay with this, and I'm going to rent this place, or I'm going to buy this place. So I don't necessarily have a long leash to listen to that, but, builders are necessary.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot of builders, honestly. I know people that are investors that are building stuff. I don't know a lot of builders. Not necessarily just only on the side of builders, but we can't go browbeat these people at the same time that we're saying that we need them to build millions of units for us.
Yeah. And here's the thing, right? I mean, this is the second time this administration has been in. The first time, everybody was saying the same thing. Guess what was being built? Homes. This time around, it's a second turn that he's got, second opportunity. Let's see what happens with that. I feel that I think with the new changes the administration is going to make, I think it's going to be a positive step moving forward.
Are you of the opinion that, so again, let's say, administration A versus B, having done this first time around and now back again, because so much has changed since then, do you think that those same subset of variables have to change in this administration's favor to accomplish the same thing? Or do you think that it's possible now, even though material costs have run way ahead of us, insurance and replacement costs are there, labor's high, there's a different set of issues, I think, facing the current administration than it was back when it was 2016, 2020.
Yeah, of course. I mean, everything's, overinflated now. He has to figure out, it's not just about putting in these new executive orders with the tariffs, et cetera. I mean, now there's a bigger change with everything. He has to change other things to be able to make sure that he's reducing the cost here. There's a lot of moving parts into this. It's not just getting that to reduce such a cost. There's going to be more that's going to be tied into this.
And the reason I'm asking the question, because for me, I look at home builder sentiment.
Yeah.
And I know it's a survey, and so people can answer however they want. But I look at the home builder survey and I wonder, okay, what's going to make that needle move? What's going to make that number tick in the certain
interest
direction?
rates?
Okay,
one.
So borrowing costs is one. I think availability of labor is going to be another one. Yeah. And I think demand. But that demand is connected to people's ability to qualify.
Yeah.
And so it's like kind of this, I don't want to say self-insulated, but it's like its own little problem ball, and everything's tucking.
And that's what I mean, right, Andy? If we get these tariffs with Canada and now we're paying more for lumber, all this has an effect on what we're going to build. Is it going to really reduce the cost? You see? So there's other things that the administration has to be careful with to make sure that everything's just going to be cohesive enough for people's costs to be reduced and for affordability to come back. So there's a lot of moving parts, and it's just very difficult. And I just question to see how they're going to get it done.
Yeah. So I think, do you think that things like subsidies will help? If a developer, because you talked about incentivization a little earlier, and I'm not just saying subsidies is a blanket single solution and it's the only solution, but do you think that would be enough of an enticement for them to go, all right, maybe I could afford to do some more units?
I think it will be. I know for sure it will be, right? Right now, we already saw that builders took a negative hit on what they reported this time around in this last quarter. And that was because interest rates were in the sevens. So we already know they're affected by interest rates no matter what.
Yeah.
And so even with that said, with the sevens, with the incentives they provide, a lot of times they provide these credits where they're going to reduce your credit because they're going to do a buy down. That's even getting affected on them being able to provide those buy downs because now it's costing them too much money. Yeah. So subsidies can kind of offset a little bit of that loss. Because remember, the builders see homes as a commodity. They have a budget to meet. They gotta sell X amount of homes because they're already looking at the next project.
Yeah.
They already got 5-10 projects lined up. Whereas a normal homeowner is not looking at it as such. You know, they just want the top dollar and that's it. Who cares if we get incentives or not? That's a different story. But it still has an influence of where we're going with this.
Yeah.
So those subsidies for developers are going to be tremendous for them. Absolutely. You know, their bottom line is just going to be better and incentivize them to, I want to build. Even if the rate's at 7% and I have a subsidy, that'll kind of, you know, balance it out for us either way.
I mean, so in preparation for today and some of these topics, like, were there any other things that you thought about that would be either maybe useful solutions that might, you know, enter the conversation, or other ideas from having done this yourself? Like, I mean, for going and expanding a property and adding units to it and being in the middle of that right now, like, are there other things you've thought of that would be useful maybe at scale that aren't yet on the table?
You know, it's very difficult for me to say that, Andy, and answer that question because I'm at a different level than what has a bigger impact in this. You know, we're talking about developers here. We're talking about, you know, these executive orders just having a bigger influence where we're not at a deficit of 5-6 million homes. You know, he wants it like, let's get up and going and let's not have this deficit. Where I come in is at a smaller scale, just doing smaller, you know, developments. And this is my first that I'm going through. But if I have to use my experience of going through this, what I would say is at the city level where I'm dealing with this, get your act together. Get your act together. Look at my plans. Have a better process, a better system in place. How we get our permits, you know, accepted. Because what happens, Andy, a lot of times is they're overwhelmed at the city level, so they have to hire a third party, and the third party, they don't care. You know, they got their own business that they're collecting from whatever they're generating their business. And now they have the city kind of give them this overflow, and it's just going to delay the process for us. And here's the thing with people they don't understand is when we're obtaining loans and we have a timeline, we have carrying costs. And those carrying costs could be anywhere from $5,000 to $40,000 a month in payments. So that's what developers are facing, you know, and they just depend on your loan size. I'll just use for example, my loan was for $410,000 and my payment is $5,100, you know? So if my contractor doesn't finish in time, or if the city's not going and inspecting the property in time, all that stuff is going to be a burden to one.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, wow. And so then you have to start realizing, like, overall, what will be my profit if this thing delays? That's why timelines are so important.
And I think we've also seen firsthand some things that do work, such as having like plans attached with permits that are already approved at the city level, so you can kind of expedite some of those things. And I know that there's going to be some, you know, trick one-off stuff people want to do. Yeah, well, then you might have to wait for that a little longer. I think also the government land part, where there's land that is not, let's say, you know, threatening preservation, that might be a good way to release some open space that could entice developers. Because again, like, they're going to make a business choice, like you're saying. Yeah. And that business choice is going to have to do with margin and profit and all that. And if they are a publicly traded company, then they're beholden to their investors. Yeah. They're going to have to do something in order to continue validating their position in the market. And I think that what we could see, it's uncertain, but I think what we could see is land that had been maybe withheld from development might start becoming available for development. Well,
let's see. That was something we heard last year. So let's see when they start. I mean, I think it's a good idea, and it's a good segue in a positive direction.
You know, yeah, and it's one of those things where they you know, each kind of camp was trying to figure out, well, what kind of housing thing should we tuck into our campaign? All right, well, campaign's over. Now it's time to go. Start dusting off some of those plans that are kind of new. Dust some of those off, and let's go. All right. Anything else on that one?
No, just, I mean, yeah. No, we're good.
Well, one final thought from me then is, you know, there's layers to this, is what I wanted to kind of say. Is there's layers to this on the size and scale, to your point. Like, there's some people that are going to just do stuff locally in their own backyard, where they can go drive by the project every day and check it out themselves, or do it on their own property. Yeah. And there's some people that are going to do maybe a smaller build. They're going to do, like, let's say 10 to 40 units. And then you got people that are going to do the 1,000 units plus over hundreds of acres, and they're a publicly traded company And so there's layers to all of that. And just keep that in mind when you are out there looking and
absolutely.
you're arguing with people in social media and comments. There's layers to all of this.
Yeah.